Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight we've reached the end in our April Wine series. I want to welcome Tim Durling, Dave Lubin, and John Clauser to the show. We are going to rank the 16 April Wine albums. Some of these might be a surprise. Some of these might not be a surprise, but we had a lot of fun on this series. We are going to have a lot of fun ranking them tonight. So without any further ado, let's get this episode started.
Throw those horns up. It's time for Grant's Rock Warehouse.
Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse and to yet another in our April Wine series. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, this is the final episode. Unless April Wine puts out another record, we won't have this group back together to talk April Wine. So on the final episode, as you well know, we're going to rank the April Wine albums the way we see them in our minds. Now, this is actually a very tough process, but I was able to do it, and the panel was able to do it as well. So I think what we're just going to do is just keep it loose, just have a general discussion, and just go around the loop, and everybody just go from their number 16 to their number 1. And we can talk about it in between, but I don't know. We're just going to give the audience our ranking. I'm going to flip a coin. Tim, John, who wants to go first? I don't care. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter to me.
All right, Tim, go, and then we'll go John, and then Dave, and then I'll follow up with myself.
So we're going to start with our least favorite and go up.
Let's go to our least favorite, and we can feel free to interject. You know, I want to keep it loose. Let's just have a general discussion. I'm just going to be fascinated by everyone's list because, you know, my list, no offense, but my list is the correct list, but I can hardly wait to see everyone else's list. So
it's your show. So yes, your list is the correct list. Of course, that's how
well,
it
you
works.
guys might be kind of surprised at my list.
I love the fact that this whole discussion, this whole April Wine discussion, which I've had a ball doing and rediscovering this all stemmed out of that one show we did for the Contrarians, where Grant mentioned seeing April Wine open for Scorpions and Sammy Hagar, and I remember thinking, man, it would have been cool to see April Wine back then. We did then we did Harder Faster versus Nature of the Beast. That was going to be it. We
were just going to do the core classic albums.
Yeah,
that classic lineup, but then we thought, what the heck?
And I just had to say,
let's look at all of it.
There's a lot more albums than you think there is.
Well, the beautiful thing about the whole thing is that there are some records that I hadn't heard.
Yeah.
And by doing this exercise, really opened me up to some really great records that I would never have probably ventured to hear on my own. And that's what I like about this type of exercise, because it forces you, well, I don't want to say forces you, but it opens you up to more of a band's catalog. And I have much more affection for April Wine now than I did when I started, because I was just basically one of those guys, Harder, Faster, Nature, and there's so much more to the band than that. So
I think it going into that catalog makes you appreciate when they got to those really, really significant albums, just how much they changed and how much they advanced.
It's a different band. It's a different
totally different band in sound and in personnel. So I went through all of the episodes we did, and I went through and listed. I found the ratings that I gave them all, and they haven't really changed. So I'm going to start. So my least favorite is the debut. I gave this one a 4 out of 10, which, to be fair, is a higher rating than I probably would have given it if I hadn't had this chance to revisit this catalog, because I always looked at this album as it had Fast Train. I liked that song, and I didn't like anything else on it. As I re-listened to it, I thought, no, that's not quite the case. But I do think it's almost sounds like the work of a completely different band. But like I said, a 4 out of 10 for a baby band on an independent Canadian label. I don't think there's anything too disgraceful about that. That's personally where I'm starting right at the beginning, because I think a band should get better ideally. So yeah, my number 16 is the debut.
I'm just curious, maybe we should just go, let's go around, because it might take a bit longer. But let's all start out at 16. I want to hear everybody's choice,
Okay.
and then we can comment in between. John Clauser, go. What's your number 16?
All right. My number 16 is going to be Roughly Speaking.
Oh my God. No.
Too short.
Really?
Too short. And I feel, the songs in there was, like you had one song that was almost a blatant, you could have heard it on a Stevie Ray Vaughan album. You had the other song that sounded like Huey Lewis. While it's not a bad album, it's short, it's only like 30 minutes long. It just, to me, nothing overly memorable for me. So,
all right, that's cool.
So yeah, Roughly Speaking.
That's cool. Dave, what you got?
I'm with Tim. I said my number 16 is the debut. It doesn't even feel like an April Wine album. Miles Goodwin just only sings on like 2 or 3 songs on it. He's the lead vocalist. The only song I like on it is Fast Train, and even that one, I think it's okay. The best was yet to come by a lot.
Good enough. Well, kids, this might ruffle some feathers, but my number 16 is Walking Through Fire, because I don't even consider that an April Wine record. I think we all know about that record. It's very commercial. It's very non-April Wine. There might be, some tracks on here that some people may like, but for me, they totally jumped the shark here. And it's just phoning it in. It's a contractual record. Some people may look at Forever Now as being non-April Wine, but I even look at Walking Through Fire as even more out there. And I have the CD. Of course I do. The Capitol CD that was released, but I never listened to it. It really, yeah. So there you go. That's my number 16. Tim Durling, what's number 15 for you?
Well, the first two, it's in order because my number 15 is the second album. This is the American version.
Oh, the
of this.
American version. Yeah.
I call it on record. I think it's an improvement. I think that there are, a couple more good songs on it. Miles sings a lot more. And by this time they've got Jim Clench, and I think that's an important thing. But I still think it's early days. Some of it's very dated sounding. They don't yet have Jerry Mercer on the drums, and that made all the difference in the world. And, it's like I said, it's early days, and I'm glad that these rock bands that came out in the 70s, the record labels gave them time to get better, because then we wouldn't have these classic albums. But that's my number 15 is the second album, whatever you want to call it. I call it on record.
All right, cool. John Clauser.
My 15 is going to be your 16. Walking Through Fire.
There you go.
I mean, I was listening through all this stuff again, and I'm like, the only thing that really reminds that I can even remember was Rock Myself to Sleep. And I'm just having a hard time really getting everything else in my head. So, yeah. That's, in fact, I think that's the only one I don't have as a standalone. I think I still have it as with a double.
This is the original Capitol CD.
Nice.
Yeah, that's rare.
And I'm going to give them, in John Clauser, I'm going to deduct points because there's no April Wine. Look at the album cover artwork. This represents what is on the album musically. It's just, so I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So there you go. That's my 15.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I don't love it, but I'm with you. All right, Dave, what's your number 15?
My number 15, and it was kind of tough between what was 15 and what was 16, but I went with Frigate. If you remember, I did not like that album one bit.
Right.
And there was one song on that album that I liked. So you had talked about, and I'm going to get to one where, Grant, you had mentioned, you said this was a great chance to revisit the catalog, and you find some things you didn't know were there. But this was one I hadn't paid any attention to when it came out, and I was fine with not paying attention to it. Now there's one where I'm going to get to it, where I was really happy we did this show, because I said, hey, this one was darn good. But so I'll go Frigate, number 15 for me.
Super. All right, kids. Well, my number 15, this was a no-brainer for me because I don't even think this is an April Wine album. This is a Miles Goodwin solo album. And I'm going to go with Forever Now, 1977.
Oh, I'm going to shock you, Grant. But anyway, keep going.
Well, that's fine. But what I'm saying is that this was really meant as a Miles solo record. And it sounds like it to me. It doesn't sound like a solid April Wine album. But if you look at it as a Miles Goodwin record, I don't really have much of a problem. It's better than Walking Through Fire, but it is what it is. It's okay. Don't really return to this, you know. I mean, it's quite different than what came before. Well, hell, it's a lot different than what came after. So, but it is what it is, and that's my number 15. I wouldn't recommend it for anybody, but it's an interesting record to listen to. All right, Tim, what you got?
Well, some of these are lining up, actually. My number 14 is Walking Through Fire. I don't have the CD, the original CD, but I got the original Capitol cassette.
That'll work.
Yeah, and this is an album that I wish I liked more than I do. But there's some things that would make me like it more. Number one, having an actual drummer on it. Oh, like, I don't know, Jerry Mercer, like one of the best drummers ever.
Where was Jerry on this record?
Oh, everybody was
He
mad.
quit? Everybody quit.
Everybody was mad except Brian Greenway, I guess. But yeah, this is your stereotypical textbook definition of a contractual obligation album. That's exactly what it is. It's to get out of the contract. So, you know, actually the last three song titles on here kind of describe the situation. Hold on. All it will ever be, wait anymore. And we're done. So there you go. That's my 14.
I can't argue with that at all. All right, John, what's your number 14?
All right. Well, I know this will probably make you sad. I'm going to go back to the mansion for my number 14. Only reason I say that is, for me,
oh my God.
Like, to me, it's like halfway through the CD, it starts going flat for me. You know, like the first, it's got those real good opener tracks, but it's like after that, I'm not really into the rest of the CD as much as the first half.
Mm-hmm.
I love Holiday. I think that's a wonderful song, but boy, after that, it just seemed, I don't know, just wasn't hitting me. So yeah, that's gonna be my contrarian number 14.
Well, I don't know if that's so contrarian, but mine is way up higher than that. But that's okay. That's what I love.
I remembered you liked it a lot, but no, after going back, I'm like, this was the toughest one for me to come by on CD, and I was like really disappointed after I listened to it. But yeah, so
well, that's okay. That's what I love. Everybody hears things differently. This is what's beautiful about the whole thing. All right, Dave, what shocking revelation are you going to come up with?
Oh, no. It's just, it has to do with what your number 15 was, but we'll get there.
Okay.
But my number 14 is Roughly Speaking. Again, it wasn't a very interesting album for me. I kind of felt like it was experimental. It was Miles Goodwin getting ready to put out blues albums. It just wasn't very. There was a couple of good songs. They were okay, but nothing that, okay, I got to keep listening to that song. So Roughly Speaking for me. So really 14, 15, and 16 for me, none of those albums are particularly interesting to me, and they're not things that I would put on and, hey, I want to listen to this. There's not any particular songs on. Some of the songs are okay, but with the exception of maybe Fast Train, just more because of the history of it. It was the first Canadian hit. That's the only one that has of any interest to me, really. So
all right, excellent.
Roughly Speaking for me.
All right, good one. Well, Tim Durling, this one's already popped up before, so the Debut is my number 14. Everything that you said, I totally agree with. We've only got Miles on here for a couple of tracks. This is a band trying to figure out really what they are. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's some great tracks on here. But do I consider this April Wine? No, not really at this point. But I don't mind listening to it. It's just more like a curiosity at this point. But it's decent debut. I mean, think about it. This never got any great reviews back in the day. They've really figured it out quite fast, because as they kept going, they avoided the sophomore slump. They kept building as a band. They kept getting better. April Wine's one of those bands that kept improving. But that's my number 14. It's okay. I'd rather listen to it than Forever for Now, but okay. All right, Tim, what do you have next?
My number 13 is Forever for Now.
Okay.
And I think it says a lot about the eclectic nature of this album that the US label London said, no, we won't. We'll take a few songs on that one and we'll put it with some songs on this and we'll call it The Whole World's Going Crazy. But that's another story. So the US label basically didn't even want to know about this album. But having said that, if you had asked me before we started doing these ratings or ranking series where this one would sit and how I would rate it. So I said I gave the debut 4. I would have said I'd probably give Forever for Now at least a 4, if not less. I actually gave it a 6.5. It was better than I remembered it. And I think you're right. I think the fact that you have to listen to it as a collection of songs and forget about, well, not the logo that was on it because they have this weird logo, but it doesn't necessarily sound like April Wine. The only reason it sounds more like April Wine than the debut is because you got Miles on here well, I think he sings all the songs. I mean, this was going to be his album.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my number 13, Forever for Now.
And you mentioned that, but all those album covers, until they got signed to Capitol, most of those April Wine album covers are just absolutely. It's a wonder they even sold any records because they're actually pretty lackluster. I'll leave it at that.
Not a lot of money was spent, I don't think, on the cover art.
No, thank God they got signed to Capitol and we got that beautiful April Wine logo.
Yeah.
All right, John Clauser, what you got?
Well, speaking of bad album covers, so my number 13 is the debut. Since you're talking about bad album covers, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's I think it was Ryan that liked the quirkiness of the
Ryan
CD.
likes
so, yeah.
all those early records.
I think he did like the first two.
He liked those, and yeah, it's a band that's just trying to find themselves. You can kind of hear it for sure, but how many debut albums knock it out of the park, back in those days. You don't get, not everybody's going to be a Led Zeppelin or I can't even think of another band off the top of my head, but
Chicago Transit Authority, that was dark.
There you go. Okay, that would be another go to. But yeah,
But sometimes like
Mott the Hoople.
Or there. But yeah, there's a quirkiness and I kind of dig about the album. So I'm gonna make that my 13.
All right, cool. All right, Dave Lubin, what you got?
All right, so my number 13, and it was kind of the band unfortunately started losing a lot of its appeal to me with this one, and that was Animal Grace. It starts off with a fantastic, outstanding April Wine song. This could be the right one.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, when I heard that song the first time, I thought, okay, this is going to be their big hit. This is going to be like their top 10. This is gonna really break them out. And apparently, I looked at like the charting history, and it started off great, and then for some reason, it just fell off really fast. Yeah. And that's really that album for me. That song starts it off fantastic, and then it just like dips for me. There's very little on that album that I found particularly interesting. And
Sons of the Pioneers, come on, Dave.
So it's funny you say that. That's probably my second favorite song on the album, but I find
brilliant.
Yeah, but there's just that album just has never been. I remember that particular album. I was in university first year, and I bought it on cassette, so that I could listen to it in the car. And it was like it just wasn't holding my interest enough to play it over and over again, like A Nature of the Beast. I remember playing the heck out of that thing. Same thing with Power Play, but this one, I don't know. I lost interest. I never really regained it that much. Still like to see the band and whatnot, but after that, it just wasn't the same. That's how come later on I discovered Back to the Mansion because of this show, but I didn't pay too much attention to too many albums that came out after that. So Animal Grace for me, number 13.
All right, excellent. I don't agree with that, but that's okay. Because my number 13, I'm going with the second record, On Record, 1972. We're still not quite there, but we are improving by leaps and bounds. I can't think of anything particularly to say about it, but it's one of those records that I don't really return to, but I appreciate where April Wine is going. And you notice that this one's got the reissue, they put the April Wine logo on there, but it didn't.
It almost doesn't look right. It almost doesn't. I like the look. It doesn't look right on that early album. It's weird. It's like, be careful what you wish for.
But don't get this confused, kids. This isn't anything like later day April Wine, but it's a fine effort. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm ranking these, they have to go somewhere. So on record's my number 13. It's better than the debut, just by a little bit. But you got a lot more miles on here. I'll give you that. So that's a plus. Yeah. All right, Tim Durling, go ahead.
Okay, so my number 12, I mentioned it just the last time around. Whole World's Going Crazy, 1976. Yeah. I think that there are some really good songs on here. I think Like a Lover, Like a Song might be Miles' best ballad. I think I had a knack for a piano ballad and, songs that just resonate with people. But overall, I don't think this is anywhere near as good as the album that came before it. I don't think it's as well produced. I think there's a little bit of the novelty to it, like with the title song and with Kick Willie Road, but I do like a lot of it. Like I like Wings of Love. That's another great ballad. The opener, Gimme Love, is really good. So Bad is a good rocker. Like I said, it's not a bad album, but it's down the list for me. It might be someone's favorite, but my number 12, The Whole World's Going Crazy.
Yeah.
I do like the album cover though.
See, it's quirky, but
especially if you have it on vinyl where it's raised.
When I ever saw this record when I was a kid, I just kind of looked at it and went,
it doesn't look like a rock record. It looks like it looks like a
I just want to
record.
I just want to know who is designing these covers. It is what it is.
Guessing, I didn't look at that. I'm guessing they were probably all done within Aquarius. Like it's probably all done in house to keep the cost down.
Yeah.
Well, that cover was their mascot for that tour, actually.
Yeah.
That Mad Hatter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't have an issue with the record, though. Anyway, all right. Thank you, Tim. John Clauser, what's your next?
I'm going with Forever. I'm going with Forever for now. Yeah, there's a few good songs that are still kind of memorable to me, but it does feel like you're right. It doesn't really feel like an April Wine album per se, but there's some fun songs. I do like Hollywood and You Won't Dance With Me. Does kind of sound like a corny's 50s ballad, but it's a fun song. Mama Leia is really nice. So Rather Be Strong. I liked it. I thought it was pretty fun. So I'm going Forever for now.
But do you think that it's an April Wine album, or is it more of a?
I kind of agree with you guys. I think it's more of a Miles
area April Wine record. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But okay.
But it was one that I still dug. So
okay, cool. All right, Dave, what you got? What's your
number 12? Number 12. Okay, number 12. Another one that I thought was a little better than you guys, simply because I think that the two songs that got airplay were really good, and that's Walking Through Fire. So. I thought Love Has Remembered Me, which got a lot of airplay in Canada, and Rock Myself to Sleep. I like their version of that a lot. I like the video that went with that. So those two songs alone, I just like them enough that I had to kind of really think about, okay, which one between Walking Through Fire and Animal Grace? I thought, you know what, I think I'm going to give it to that one, even though it is kind of a fake April Wine album. I do really like those two songs, and you've got like two songs that would probably be in my top, let's say 20 songs of theirs, whereas the other one only had one, so came down to that.
You're saying that this record's better than Animal Grace?
Because
I'm just giving you, Dave, I'm just giving you a hard time.
No, it's fine. If you're giving me a hard time
about that, Pioneers, come on.
Wait till you see what. Hey, if you're giving me a hard time about that, wait till you see what's to come.
No,
anyway,
okay.
It's all love,
album yet.
Dave. It's all love on this channel. It's just all in fun. If you like that record better than Animal Grace, bless your heart.
We're talking tomato though. The bottom line is that actually, okay, for me to be we're about to get into the main. It's 1 through 10 is what matters in this ranking.
Well-
The rest of this to me, it's just kind of like I had to rank these.
But this is
Although-
one thing
although
I'm
I
going to
will-
say. At least Animal Grace sounds like nature. It sounds like, that classic era. When you get to Walking Through Fire, it's like a totally different. There's nothing there that even holds my interest, but that's okay. That's cool. Good for you. I love it. It's good. It's fine. I'm just giving you crap. I just don't understand. But that's what's fun about ranking stuff. All right. Anything more to add? Because I keep interrupting you.
No, I'm good. I'm waiting to get to the to the diamond
The meat-
stuff.
the
up
meat.
there.
You
Where-
keep building it up, Dave. I'm
where I
really
really-
anxious to see what you've got.
all right, let's
All right, let's go over to Tim. What's your number 11?
What was your 12, Grant?
Oh, my 12. I'm
do
sorry.
your
Yeah, you're
12,
12.
Oh
now,
God,
yeah.
I'm so excited that I missed my 12. My
so
12's
busy
the
kicking
whole
me, huh?
world's going crazy, just like Tim
Oh, yeah.
Durling. I like it better. I think they keep getting better. I think it's better than the debut. I think it's better than the second album. I don't think it's as good as the third album, but I quite like this quite a bit. I like the recording. I like the tracks. You've got the core, you've got Gary Moffat in the band, you've got, Miles, you've got I can't remember. Is Steve Lang on here? He's on
Steve
here, right?
Lang's first. That's his
Yeah,
first.
Steve Lang's on here. Holy crap, Jerry Mercer. It's all coming together, gentlemen, and it all starts here. I don't love it. It's a solid, good, great effort. I don't have a problem with it at all. We're getting there. So yeah, that's my number 12.
This is this is with Dave. It's like playing Clue.
It
What
is.
album he mentioned that the rest of us has? It was Professor Plum in the Conservatory Candlestick. So my number 11 is sadly still the last April Wine album, roughly speaking.
God, really?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
yeah. It's way too short. I don't mind what's on it. I just don't think there's enough. I mean, there's 8 songs on it. One of those songs I don't even think is 2 minutes long. I don't mind the stripped down bluesy approach. I like both of Miles' blues albums. But yeah, they're just, if they'd have come out with this and then another one the same length a year later, might have been a different story. You might have been looking, but it's just their last, studio album now going on 17 years. Yeah, I can only rate it at 11. It's not going to get in my top 10.
What do you think? If anything, I think being short is beneficial because everything nowadays, I don't know if
I
it's
know
due to
that's what they were
CD
going
lengths.
for.
Everything's bloated.
Yeah.
This is
I know that.
nicely compact.
No, I understand that, and I know that's what they were going for. But there's nothing wrong with having a modern album with 8 songs on it. But where these songs are so short, you could have put 10 songs on it. It still would have felt like a nice short album.
Mhm.
But I just don't think there's just not enough there. It's like it's an appetizer, It doesn't to me. So to me, I'm not going to rate it very highly because I don't think it's all there.
It's almost like an EP instead of a full
Very
fleshed
much
out
so, yeah.
record. Okay.
And I
get it.
think they sold it at an EP price. I think I bought this new for $8.99 or something.
Well, it doesn't cost $8.99 anymore. I'll give you that.
No,
No.
it certainly doesn't. Late tax.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Excellent. All right, John
All
Clauser.
right, my
I
number
can
11.
hardly wait. I can hardly wait.
Frigate.
Okay.
Again, not as strong as its predecessor, but there's still some good songs I still can do without the cover of "I Just Want to Make Love to You," but because I think that's been overdone. But I like "I'm a Man," and I like the remake of "Tonight's a Wonderful Time to Fall in Love." So there's some good songs on this. And I was fortunate enough to find this at my local store for pretty inexpensive. So
I knew he's going to bring that up.
so I was happy for that. So I wasn't quite so fortunate with Roughly Speaking and Back to the Mansion, but yeah, so Frigates for me.
All right. That's a good, I have no issues with that. All right. All right, Dave, surprise us.
All right, number 11. Now is
Mhm.
when we start getting into records that I can lightly say, yes, I like this record.
Okay.
And that is On Record, the second one.
Oh,
On Record, now we start getting into a hit song in both the United States and Canada. In fact, in Canada, it makes many of the, when you look at rock radio lists, it often will make the list of one of the best Canadian rock songs of all time, and You Could Have Been a Lady. I think from that perspective, I think it's a little bit overrated, but it shows the band's ability to take relatively unknown songs and make hit songs out of them and make them sound like really good. There's some deep cuts in here that I really like Druthers, which is also on the first live album. And one song that I really like on this album that Miles Goodwin has said on his Facebook page that he hates is called Flow River Flow. It was really the first ballad that he did. I really quite liked it. I'm going to make a kind of a Dennis Miller weird reference here to a movie, The Phantom of the Paradise. It kind of has a Winslow Leach quality about it when I hear Miles doing it. If you know if any of you know the movie, you'll kind of know what I mean. But I just kind of like that. It's the beginning of Miles' ballads, and I just like listening to that, and then where he eventually went with it, with great songs with Like a Lover, Like a Song. So enjoy that. And then there's a couple others on here that are still played to this day, like Drop Your Guns, Bad Side of the Moon. Never been that crazy about that one. Realistically, I understand why Elton John didn't like it that much, and because he never plays it anymore. But April Wine still has put it on their show many times over the years. Surprisingly, I've seen it like in their second and third renditions. So I don't think I've seen it in the last 10 years, but I remember definitely seeing it in the 90s a few times done. So
excellent.
So anyway, I think it's pretty good. The best is definitely yet to come, but that's the first one that I can say, yes, I like this album.
Cool. All right. Well, John Clauser, we think alike. We finally line up. Frigate is my number 11. I echo you in this thought. It's not as good as what came before. It's almost like, but I'm not going to throw this out with the bathwater. I'm just going to say that.
Me either.
I like it, but these all have to rank somewhere. Okay. It's not as good as Attitude, because Attitude, they had a lot of time to come up with that record. They had a long break. This seems like, this came out relatively fast after Attitude, correct? If I remember right.
Very next year.
Right.
So.
Ready next year. I don't know if these are outtakes or what, but it just seems not quite as fully thought out as Attitude. I'll take it. I will take it, but it has to land somewhere. So that's my number 11. All right.
Top 10.
Now we're getting to our top 10.
Yeah, I'm surprised this ranked as high as it did, but anyway.
So go ahead. What ranked as high as it did?
Animal Grace.
You're surprised it ranked as high as it did?
This says Animal Grace, but if you look at the side of this is from Spain, so it's El Encanto Animal.
Huh.
Anyway.
Oh, that's how I normally refer to that record. El Encanto. Yeah, that's
everybody should. El Encanto Animal. Yeah. I think that this could be the right one. Is fantastic. I think
fantastic.
I can't even. I don't even think it was a hit in Canada. It just fell flat. I'm going to guess that after 3 weeks, Capitol pulled the promotion on it. That's the only thing I can figure, because it's a great song. It had the potential to cross over to pop radio. It wasn't recorded that heavy, even though it's a pretty rocking song. It's got a weird video, but it has some production value to it. This is the video age. As a matter of fact, I saw not long ago someone did posted on YouTube, Mark Goodman doing a top 20 countdown from whatever week in 1984, and this video was in the countdown, so it was getting some play. I just have to think that Capitol pulled the plug on it. I think Sons of the Pioneers is a brilliant song. It rocks. So I think it's the hardest rocking song on this album. I think that side 1 is way better than side 2. I think it's way overproduced, but I think that there's, you know, beneath all of the overproduction, I think there's some really good songs on here. I think that given a different treatment, I think Without Your Love could have been another great Miles Goodwin ballad. They went a different route with it. But yeah, I like Walking Through Fire because they broke up and there weren't any albums in the rest of the 80s. I have always wanted to like Animal Grace.
That was it. That was it. Yeah.
More than I do. But I like enough of the songs on here more than the songs on Walking Through Fire. And I understand what Dave's saying. If you've got it, if the albums, these albums don't, there's not a big gulf between, other than the first two albums, which I gave a 4 and a 5, everything is like 6 and up. So there's not a big gulf between these albums. It's by degrees. But if you think of it, an album, you really like 2 songs on one and only really like one on the other, the one that you like 2 songs on is going to rank higher. It just makes good sense. So yeah, that's my number 10.
Well, what do you think really killed this album? I mean, look at the cover for one. Does this scream, I want this? Where is the April Wine logo? Well, we could say that about Walking Through Fire as well.
Yeah, I don't mind the cover in itself, but it's the same thing with Walking Through Fire. They got one of the coolest logos in rock, and they stopped using it.
I don't get it.
So I think it's very marketable. It stands out in a record rack. I don't think that's it, but I just think that there was just a lack of interest in promoting it in the States anyway.
Yeah. Maybe they, their time had come.
Also, within the industry, sometimes there gets to be a thing. These guys, again, they've been around forever. It's not their time anymore. I don't know. Who knows the decisions that are made at those high levels.
Right. But, all right. Cool beans. All right, John, what you got?
All right. So this is what cracks my top 10 is on record. Dave, what version do you have? Because I don't have the song Druthers on mine. And I have an Aquarius
which one
CD.
do you? Oh.
I have the Aquarius CD. So mine starts with Farkas and Could Have Been a Lady, Believe in Me, Work All Day, Drop Your Guns, Bad Side of the Moon, Refuge.
You know what? I could be confused.
Flow River Flow, and Carry On and Didn't You.
Is yours the remaster? Did it have the slipcase?
I'm wondering. I might be confusing Farkas and Druthers, but I know I thought Druthers.
Yeah, Druthers isn't on. I was thinking about that. I'm like, no, he's right. But then again,
Farkas is a good one too. So maybe that's the one I'm thinking. But you might have got me on that one because Druthers is on the live album.
I know it's on that one live album, but
yeah,
I thought it was on
record. Okay,
John, is this the one you've got? This?
Yeah.
This
okay.
One? No, I have the.
My bad.
Oh, you've got the Aquarius CD.
I found an Aquarius version. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the same one I have, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and not really much anything different to say about than what you guys said. I mean, I absolutely love You Could Have Been a Lady. I actually do like Bad Side of the Moon, believe it or not. So, Drop Your Guns is pretty cool. Yeah, I dug the album. It was some like. It was the progression from the first album, and there was enough interest here for me to come back to. So
excellent. All right, cool. All right, Dave, shock us.
Oh, okay, my turn. We are.
Sorry, I'm keeping it short. I'm keeping mine short and sweet to be nice. So.
Hey, I like it.
Okay.
We can keep it short and sweet.
My number 10 is the comeback album, Attitude. So now there is a big leap up for me from number 11 to number 10. So there was a leap from 12 to 11, and there was a bigger leap from 11 to 10. I like Attitude quite a bit better than I do like On Record, and that was one where I'd say because of the show, I had started discovering this album before the show, but I started really listening to it more closely because of the show, and That's Love is definitely I think it might be my favorite headbanging April Wine song there is, but there's a lot of good stuff on this one. So really glad that I got to revisit this one. Number 10, Attitude.
Again, I thought John Clauser and I were synced up. Dave, it's really you and me. You and me are now synced up because I'm going with Attitude as well. I think the album cover, I know that's Miles. That's his son. I love that, but I don't think the album cover is doing any favors to the music. We do have the April Wine logo. It's back. That's a good thing, but it doesn't, how do I want to put it? I like this record. Is it as good as the classic April Wine from Nature and Harder, Faster? No, I'm not trying to say that those are even going to be up there for me. But I think it's a great welcome return. Oh my God, it's so nice to have this. And because of this series, I would never have heard it. So it's better than Frigate. I think the songs on here are good. The playing's good. The guitars on here sound great. I don't have a real problem. But, they've been gone a while, I don't know. It's where it lands. It's number 10 for me. And like everyone said, now, like Dave said, number 10 and on, now we're really talking. So I like this record quite a bit, but it's got to land somewhere. And there are other records I like better. So I'll leave it at that. All right, Tim Durling, we're on number 9.
Okay, my number 9 is actually, well, it's not a leap and bound compared to where I'm placing it, but it's leap and bound compared to where I think it fits in their catalog, because it's vast improvement over the first two. I'm going with Electric Jewels.
Nice.
Huge improvement over the first two
Oh
albums.
my God, yes.
Although upon listening to it again, I even liked it more than I remembered. I mean, I'd never get tired of Weeping Widow. I really like Cat's Claw. I really like Jim Clench's voice. I love Just Like That. The band has just begun. Yeah, this is this is their first. I mean, it's the first with the classic, lineup as far as Gary Moffat and Jerry Mercer. So I mean, it's the band is solidifying, and I love how they just got better and better, and they solidified by degrees. So yeah, that is my number 9.
Good choice. All right, John, back to you.
All right. Well,
Electric Jewels.
Attitude.
Attitude. All right.
Attitude. So I think it has to go somewhere, because there's just so much good stuff coming up. And you're right. This was a great return. Maybe the CD's a little long because you're getting in that CD age where you can get a lot more stuff. But as one thing, as you have shown, Grant, that you like a nicely sequenced CD.
Yes. And
And I think this mixes the hard stuff with the lighter stuff very nicely. And I think that's what really attracted me to this one. So I go with that for my number 9.
excellent choice. Excellent choice. Great minds think alike. Dave.
Number 9,
Electric
I go with
Jewels.
no. Number 9, I go with Back to the Mansion. So for me, it starts with On Record's a good album, and then I consider Attitude and Back to the Mansion very good. And then the next date is when, and then I'll describe. I'm going to tell you how I came up with the ranking I did, because it was that difficult for me to really figure out how do I rank those other 8 albums 1 to 8. We'll get there. But anyway, Back to the Mansion and Attitude, very good later albums. It was just nice to see they still had it.
Okay, cool. Wow, that was short and sweet. I wasn't even. Okay, Dave.
I'm saving my verbiage for 1 through 8.
I like being shocked. Okay, because I'm going with Electric Jewels for my number 9. And just like this is where everything is coming together. You've got that core lineup. You don't have any, no Brian yet, but things are starting to solidify. And I think with this record, because you've got Jerry, because you've got Gary Moffat, I think it's revitalized the band and they are on fire. So I think things are starting to come together. And this record, if I could recommend this to somebody. If you want early April wine, good place to start. And is the album cover good? No, it still sucks, but the music is there. And number 9, I'm fine with number 9 because there's so much great stuff ahead. All right, Tim Durling.
My number 8 is Back to the Mansion. And this album is really, really good. I mean, from here on in, it's tough. We're getting into 8, 8.5, 9. I'm getting into high rankings here. So, but this album I think has aged really, really well. I think that there's just a lot of songs on here that work, you know. I think the opener, I Won't Go There, is good. I think I'll Give You That is an undiscovered gem. Falling Down is good in a weird kind of way. And I mean, Holiday, I think, is the centerpiece of the album.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh my God.
I wish they'd let Brian sing just a few more songs per album, especially on these, you know, the later album, the CD age, where you can sing more. But yeah, a really good album. And yeah, so like I said, that is my number 8.
All right. Well, John.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna say this. Now, for me, as being as a much newer fan, basically when it comes to these last 8, I may as well just throw them up in the air, and however they land, because there's not going to be a whole lot that's going to really differentiate for me. So for me, and I'm going to pull out my little differences here, going with a little First Glance.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of there. I mean, this is a great album too. I mean, with, you know, Get Ready for Love, Hot on the Wheels of Love, you know, Rock and Roll's a Vicious Game, Roller, of course, the classic, the centerpiece there. Yeah, it's solid, and I could definitely have seen myself enjoying these back in the day when these came out. So, well, and the reason I went with the album version is because that was my CD version. So, which I think this is the Aquarius version. So yeah, you get this really
horrible cover. Thank God they got signed to Capitol and they were able to come up with this.
Does that not tell you that if they just stayed on Aquarius, they'd have kept putting out album covers like that?
Probably.
I'm going to assume that Capitol developed this logo.
I would say so.
Think about it. We talked about, well, before this, we did a show on Helix.
Yeah.
And Tim was on there, and Helix had a great logo, and they were on Capitol. Someone in that Capitol art department is on fire with logos.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was the same person.
I wouldn't be surprised because it's brilliant.
Yeah, Aquarius actually used that cover for their greatest hits album that came out just after it was released in Canada.
They've used it twice. They used it for the greatest hits in '79, and then they put up the over 60 minutes with the hits.
Compilations. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a very well-known publicity photo of the guys.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right. Well, I kind of we're on 8, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
The one
I got all worked up when, you know, First Glance came up. I get all excited. Dave, what's your number 8?
Okay, so 1 to 8, that's where this thing got horrifyingly difficult. So I came up with a system. I said, you know what? I'm going to rank these songs 5, 4, 3. And if it doesn't rank 5, 4, 3, I'm not giving it any ranking.
Okay.
And I just basically said, you know what? I'm going to see how they add up. And that's how I'm going to rank them, 8 to 1. If I feel really strongly that no, this one should be above that one, I made some minor changes. I'm not going to go into how I made those changes. One of the ways I decided was there's 4 songs that are like outstanding songs for me that are my April Wine Hall of Fame. And if those songs were on it, that affected my ranking. So my number 8, I was like in shock. I said, really? That's number 8? Because I love this album, and that's Electric Jewels. Love Electric Jewels. My 2 favorite songs in the album are Lady Run, Lady Hide, and the title track, Electric Jewels. I think Electric Jewels is such a cool song. The way it has like that whole rocking thing, and then at the end it goes into that little ballad. And then honorable mention goes to one that Tim just mentioned, Cat's Claw. Actually, that's probably my favorite Jim Clem song. I made reference. I actually got to see them play that live years and years and years ago. That was so cool. I like that album cover. It's actually a picture of Miles Goodwin's guitar that got found years after it was lost. So there's a cool story behind that. I think we talked about that on the Electric Jewel show. But this is a fantastic album. All these albums, I say, hey, go out and buy them. The other thing with all these albums is that every single one of these albums, 1 to 8, I played to death as a teenager. So
yeah, excellent. I don't have a problem with that. Excellent choice. Of course, you gentlemen are probably going to have a problem with my next choice. But things have to come somewhere in the ranking. My number 8, Stand Back. I like Stand Back. But there's some records I like better. I think Jim Clinch sounds, Come Here, the band's great. Don't Push Me Around. Slowpoke, Victim of Your Love. I don't have a problem with these tracks. I think we're almost there, boys. We're almost there. We're almost at home plate. And it's all coming together because it's this lineup that kicks ass. And they kick ass on this. It's loud, it's rocking, it's great. But it's not quite there. So that's my number 8. But some people are going to really rate this high, I think, but I don't know.
I think that's probably the best of their pre-Capital Years album covers.
Well, I wouldn't say the logo's very good.
No, but at
this
least
this sucks. At least you've got the band on the cover for once.
Yeah. It gives you an idea of it's got a cannon on it, and I don't know.
But you think about it, once they got the Capitol, it's like Helix.
Well,
they were all independent, but then when they get the major label,
you're in the big leagues now. Yeah, you're in the big leagues now. We're gonna spend a little money on how people see your albums in stores.
This looks like a bar band behind a cannon.
Yeah,
that's fine, but things step up. We're getting there.
I think the back cover photo is better than the front cover. The photo of them on stage.
The cannon was key to the show, though. The cannon, they would blow.
Oh yeah, the cannon was doing it.
By the way, I didn't go to those shows. I didn't see The Whole World's Going Crazy or that one. I wish I could have, but didn't.
This is the Aquarius CD with the crappy rear insert, but it's got no back cover photos, but it does have this. This must be a later one.
Now, see that's weird because mine is just a plain silver CD.
Yeah,
that's actually
this is a later one.
That's like they had leftover jewel cases, but they had to put a newer CD in it. That's really weird.
Who knows what Aquarius was up to?
So we're on number 7 now.
We're
right?
on number sir.
My number 7. Okay, so based on everybody else's rankings, this is going to seem very high, but I have to say that this is really the period where I got into the band, was getting into the band, and then lo and behold, I find out they're putting a new album out. So I do have nostalgia for buying this as the first April Wine album to come out after becoming a fan. I think it continues where Attitude left off. I don't think it's as strong as Attitude by any stretch, but I do think it's a good sounding album. I think it's got some heavy songs on it. I think Miles' ability to write a ballad, If I Was a Stranger, is fantastic. I like Whatever It Takes. For me, the only misfire on here is the last track, Mind Over Matter. I still don't understand what that was all about. And it would have been nice if they'd have just left the title off and I would have just thought the album was done. I don't understand the, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man as a sailor on the back there. But anyway, I don't mind it. So I originally gave it an 8. I know that sounds high, but again, timing is everything. Timeline's everything. So that's where my number 7 is Frigate.
Super.
All right.
John?
Well, me, again, this is just kind of throwing it up in the air and just seeing what lands. So I'll go with Whole World's Going Crazy. And then I noticed on my CD version, I have 2 different versions of this album. So
really?
Yes. Yeah, my CD version here that I have, which is the Unidisc version, has only 9 tracks. And the album version I have has 10. So I think
you got the US.
Is that the
US vinyl?
US London?
Yeah, this was a London.
Yeah. So it's got songs from Forever For Now on it, and it's different.
The shorter version of Like a Lover, Like a Song, which I'd love to find a version with the extended solo. That would be kind of cool. But I don't know. Again, I found I Like a Lover, Like a Song, Give Me Love. Of course, with Tyler Hagopian's relative co-writing the song here. So shout out to Tyler there. Haven't heard you for a while. I don't know. It was another album I just dug, and I liked it. I could have seen myself listening to this back in the day. So, Whole World's Going Crazy.
Excellent. I like that record. Didn't make my top 10, but I still like it. Okay, Dave.
Well,
Bracing myself.
John and I are synced up. Number 7 for me is Whole World's Going Crazy. So I talked about my April Wine Hall of Fame, Like a Lover, Like a Song, and Wings of Love are both in that are part of those songs. They're there. I've got my 4. And yet it still only ranks number 7. The main reason is because the rest of the album, Shot Down for me was a 5-star song, and then other than that, there was a lot of 3.5 star type songs, a lot of good stuff, but I didn't think it was a great. I did think it was a little bit of a weak follow up to Stand Back. Other than those songs, so I had a hard time ranking that one above Electric Jewels, but that was one of them where I said, well, those 2 songs are just so awesome. I can't put Whole World's Going Crazy number 8 of those 8 albums. So I bumped it up one.
All right, cool. I think that's a good choice. All right, well, kids, I've got this is so bad. I thought I had pulled all my April Wine CDs, but I evidently missed one. My number 7 is Roughly Speaking. And you're probably going, why is that so high? Well, for some reason, I find this whole record Thank you, John. John, there it is. I find the whole thing refreshing. Think about it. They're going into that blues mode. It's well recorded. This album really sounds good. The guitar playing on it is killer. And I kind of like an April Wine, a little bit more April Wine bluesy. I didn't think I would like it when I bought it. I had never heard it until we got this show, but then I thought, wow, what a way to end a career. I'm assuming they're not going to produce any more records, but I find it refreshing. I don't have any issues with the whole thing. It's short, but I'm good with that. We don't need to put these albums out to 70 minutes. And, it's the fact that April Wine's doing what they wanted to do, and I don't have a problem with that. I think Miles sounds great on the record. And I frequented, well, I don't listen to it all the time, but it would be one that I would put on without any hesitation. So, yep, there you go. 2006, Roughly Speaking. I like it. Love it. I never thought I would. All right, Tim, what you got?
So my number 6 is Stand Back. And, it's definitely out there. 70 albums. Yeah, it's the Atlantic reissue. And of their 70s albums, this is the earliest one that I've ranked this high. This is definitely this one. I would say Nature of the Beast and Power Play are the most common ones that I come across used. These sold a lot of albums here in Canada, and I think for good reason. I mean, What a Night is just an irresistible song. I can never get sick of it. For all the reasons I talked about when I reviewed the episode. One of the things I really like about this lineup here, and it's no disrespect to Steve Lang because he was a great bass player, but I'm going to use kind of a strange comparison. I'm comparing it a little bit to Journey, because when Jim Clench left and was replaced by Steve Lang, you got a perfectly good bass player taking his place, but you lost that cool second voice, like when Greg Raleigh left Journey and was replaced by Jonathan Cain. You still got a good keyboard player, but you didn't have that. Jonathan Cain is nowhere near the vocalist Greg Raleigh, is my opinion. Yes, you had Brian Greenway, right. but yeah, I really like the most of the songs that Jim sings, and the contrast to his voice and Miles. But I think there's a good reason that there's so many used copies of this floating around. A lot of people, this made it to a lot of homes. So that is my number 6.
Yeah, Canada though, didn't that really? I don't know what it did. Wasn't
it was
that
a
the
big
best?
It was a really. I think it might have been. It was their best-selling album in the 70s. I would say.
Yeah,
it was the best-selling. It was up to that point. It was the best-selling album by a Canadian band. I mean, it's been. I mean, since then, Alanis Morissette, Heck Trooper, Hot Shots, like way outsold that one. But up to that point, it had sold, I think, 250,000 copies, and that was unheard of at the time.
Yeah, that's it. Like that's the equivalent of selling 2.5 million copies in the States. Like that's a big, big album.
Wow, excellent. All right, John. What's your Number.
What Tim said.
Okay.
There's not much I don't think there's much I can add to that. Oh What a Night, great song, great. I mean, there's a reason it's just on just about every live album, obviously, except for the first one. Slowpoke is actually as goofy as it is, it's actually kind of fun. I kind of dig it.
Yeah,
It's a fun album from start to finish. It's just another good one. So
all right.
not much to add to that. So stand back.
Beautiful. Dave, what you got? What's next?
I got a comment on Tim's Journey comment.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but here was the difference. When they lost Jim Clench, they lost a vocalist, and they lost another writer of songs. When they gained Jonathan Cain, him and Steve Perry wrote some awesome ballads.
Oh,
together.
absolutely. I mean, Frontiers is my favorite Journey album. I really liked when Greg Raleigh sang, and I liked when he and Perry traded off.
Oh yeah, City of the Angels and all that.
You can't have it all.
That was a
great songwriter. No,
that's the Same Way You Love Me. Was that
but if they could, I think I like that stuff because the way they traded off then.
Yeah, no.
And then once Greg was gone, that was the end of that.
And I just have to interject that the new Neil Schon Journey Through Time CD DVD package, when he got Greg Raleigh and Dean Castronova, if you like that early Journey stuff, you've got to check it out. That's all I got to say about it.
The new one that just came out.
Yeah.
So is Greg playing keyboards and singing?
Yeah.
Give us a little. We're okay. I think we're going pretty long. Just give us a brief.
About 5 years ago, Neil didn't split, but the Journey weren't active at this point. They weren't on the road. So he put together this band with Greg Raleigh, Dean Castronova, who at the time wasn't in Journey because he had some legal troubles. He's now back. Bass player Marco Mendoza, who's played with a ton of people, and another keyboard player named John Varn, I think. And they did a series of shows, very, very small venues. I think it was like a fireman's benefit. And I never heard anything more of it. I'd see some stuff on YouTube. And just this year, it's been released on Frontiers Records. It's called Journey Through Time, but the artist name is Neil Schon. But it's essentially a version of Journey. It is 30 songs and tons of songs from the first 3 albums, which I absolutely love. The pre-Perry stuff too. Tons of stuff from Infinity and Evolution. A little bit of stuff from Escape and Frontiers, but mostly it's the classic stuff. And it is so cool to see new recordings or new live recordings of those old songs. So
how's Greg sound on it?
You're into pretty good. Like, some of the higher songs he struggles, but for the most part, I just think he's so cool, playing the Hammond B3 and singing the vocals. They threw a couple Santana songs in at the end because Neil and Greg formed Journey from Santana. So if it sounds like something you want, it is.
There you go. See, kids, when you tune into this, we also give album reviews from other bands that have nothing to do with the band we're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's cool, Tim. I appreciate that. Well, I'm kind of intrigued. The
connection I can think of is Mike Stone. That's the only connection between those two bands I can think of.
It all comes back to Mike Stone.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Well, now I can't remember who I'm on.
Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry.
No. Hey, it's my own
fault.
I
was. Hey, we had to go down that road. Dave, is it you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Okay, so all right. So number 6. I'm actually looking at my list, and I'm actually going to do a little switcheroo here. My number 6 actually is going to be Nature of the Beast. Don't get me wrong, darn good album. It was their big breakout hit in the United States, but I do think the 5 albums above it were a tad better. Having said that, filled with great songs. I mean, but my favorites being Sign of the Gypsy Queen and Telling Me Lies. And then one that got a little bit of airplay in its time, but I think kind of forgotten now, Future Tense, another great song. I mean, I think it was a darn good album. I always kind of felt that there was other albums above it that might have gotten the same kind of attention and radio play. They might have become bigger hits for the band. So I'll go with Nature of the Beast, number 6.
Let me just take this in for a second. Okay. Having trouble with that choice, but I'll be okay. I'm just okay. I'll be okay, Dave. I'm all right.
You'll be all right. Okay.
Yeah. What number are
He'll
we
make
on?
it, huh?
Because I think I've lost something. Something
Six.
got
We're on 6.
6. Well, something's happened and I've misplaced one, so I'm not sure how that happened. Well, my next one is Back to the Mansion. I know that sounds crazy. It's that high, but it is. I absolutely love this record. When I first put it on, I thought, what has happened to April Wine? It's just like they took a little time. It's absolutely wonderful. The recording is great. The songs are top notch. The guitars sound great. I have nothing to complain about for this record. It just sounds like everything is running on all pistons. Everything's firing all at once. Everyone hears these records differently, but I love Back to the Mansion. I think it's right up there. It's almost in that classic period in my mind. And I am so glad that we did this series and continued on, because I may have never heard this record, but I love this record. I like the production. I don't have any issues with it at all. I don't know why. As soon as I hit it, it was connected to me. So that's what gave me more hope.
All right. So my number 5, maybe people haven't heard of this album, but it's called Primera Vista.
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, which is where is this from? Argentina is where I got this one. So yeah, obviously I'm talking about First Glance, and it's great song. It's got great songs on it, like Balanceadora. She's a Balanceadora.
Yeah.
A high rolling baby. El rock and roll es un juego vicioso. That's a great song. I really like Estad lista para amor. Get ready for love. Anyway, yeah.
It sounds cool.
Yeah, it sounds cool. It's broken up into Phase A and Phase B. No, First Glance is a great album, and it's it was the perfect album to kind of introduce them to really the world, because they'd had albums out in the States before, but this was their presentation. And the nice thing about it is that they ended up, opening for the likes of Rush, and then, Sammy Hagar. So people were seeing what they thought was a new band, but they were seeing this tight, road-tested band. And I think that's why they sold so many albums, because people were like, I can't believe how good this new band is, right? So I think they had the right songs for it. Brian's in the band now. He gets to sing the song right down to it. It's another great ballad with Coming Right Down on Top of Me. I'm actually surprised it ranked as high as they did, but I've always liked the album. So that's Primera Vista. That's my number 5.
That's a good one. Good choice. Well, John, is it going to be Nature of the Beast for you too, or
Electric Jewels?
Electric Jewels.
Electric Jewels. No, Weeping Widow, man, that starts it off, and I'm like, yep, come on, keep it coming, keep it coming. And to me, it's just another fun album to listen to. There's not much more I can really say from what you guys have already talked about, but I just love Weeping Widow. I think it just is a great kickoff track. Yeah. I like Cat's Claw. I even like The Band Has Just Begun. I think that was a good closer. Yeah, it was another great album that, again, could see myself listening to back in the day. So I'm trying to put myself back in those days, and I think, I would have gotten into this. So yeah, Electric Jewels.
Beautiful. All right, Dave. Is Harder Faster next, or what?
Harder Faster is next. I was having trouble between Harder, Faster, and Nature of the Beast, but when it came down to it, I just like every single song on Harder, Faster better than I like every single song on Nature of the Beast. I said, no, you know what? That should rank a little higher. Harder, Faster. I mean, it's another fantastic album. It has Say Hello. I mean, that's to this day, you hear that all the time played on Canadian radio. I'm going back to Toronto, listening to Q107, because I know that's going to come on at some point in the 2 or 3 days that I'm visiting. And a deep track that's always been one of my favorites. I would have loved to have heard them play this live once, is Babes in Arms. Another fun deep track on that one. Better Do It Well. That's a fun track. And for me, like the weakest song on this album, and it's not that it's a weak song, they do a great rendition. It's probably the one I least want to hear. It is actually 21st Century Schizoid Band. It's not bad. It's great, but it's just, this is such a good album that say I don't really need to hear them do a cover, because these original songs are just so awfully good.
Oh my God, Dave, I'm gonna have to take you out and shake you. I think maybe.
Oh boy, you're
not sure.
Tonight.
I'm really worried now. 20.
Oh, we got it.
Brilliant.
No, you are. Yeah, you know the worst is yet.
Well,
to
you
come
haven't
to you,
you haven't even mentioned Power Play yet. I'm keeping track. I'm just joking. I love
There's
it.
another one he hasn't mentioned. That's the real game.
Yeah, okay. Tim knows where we're going with this.
I know. I love
Figured
this.
it
This
out.
is so much fun.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. We're in the home stretch, and I just back to the mansion. I just put that right outside, which is amazing. I'm gonna have to go with Animal Grace. This could be the right one. Sons of the Pioneers. It's the classic lineup. It's got that classic sound. Maybe there's some weak tracks on it, but the more you listen to it, the more that it takes hold. I think it's one of those dark horse. Here we go, dark horse album for.
Yeah.
Dark horse album for Contrarians. I like it. I like it more now than when it came out, but just for the fact that it's got Sons of the Pioneers, and this could be the right one too. The greatest April Wine tracks ever gets my vote, and the rest of the album's not bad at all. I love it. We're in that whole sweet period as far as I'm concerned. So I'll take anything that's even weak from this band in this current lineup, the classic April Wine lineup. So there you go. All right, Tim. What's next?
Well, I'm not gonna upset the cart there, because my number 4 is Power Play. On this butt ugly U.S. Columbia House cassette that came out with this really generic looking. I just hate the way that these Columbia House cassettes look in the States, but this is a great album. I mean, it's got one of they have good openers. Anything you want, you got. It's one of the best. Enough's Enough is, to me, just supreme, like ear candy. I cannot believe it only got to number 50 in the States. It's such a great song.
I know.
Waiting on a Miracle. I mean, Blood Money. I like how they did Tell Me Why. I love Runners in the Night. Ain't Got Your Love. Like, this is a good album, and it probably sold, well, it's never even been certified gold, so it probably didn't even sell half of what The Nature of the Beast sold, which it just shows you how fast things can change. But it's a fantastic album, and this is a classic. Like you said, it's a classic period. Hard to go wrong with any of those.
Great album cover. Great.
The album cover is really cool. Yeah.
This is the
It's funny. Put that album cover next to It's Hard by The Who that came out the same year. Very, very similar. Kid playing a video game.
Yeah.
But I wonder if it was the same designer. Probably not. It's interesting that, video games were just getting really popular then too. So that would explain.
It could be. God knows. I don't know. Good choice. Good choice. All right, John, what you got? We're winding this up. Power Play. Look at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much I can add to this. This again, I could see myself listening to this. This actually, until I started doing this series, I could honestly say there was only like one April Wine song that I actually was familiar with, and that was "If You See K." I remember that as a kid.
Odd one song to have heard.
They used to play that back in the day on the radio.
And that's where I heard it. I heard it as in my junior high days on the radio. And I could remember as kids walking around the school, and some of us, I heard a couple kids actually singing the song, and a teacher looked over and what'd you say? So yeah. So that was actually the first time I actually was even familiar with April Wine, and that was really the only thing I knew by them. So, but no, great stuff. Enough is Enough is a great single. Great poppy single. It's For the not much to add. Again, not much to add what you said, Tim.
Yeah. All right, Dave. Dazzle us. Wow, this is a popular choice.
The thing that always confused me about this album is I don't know how come they didn't step it up, because to me, I did like it better than Nature of the Beast in terms of. Now, here's the one thing I will say: side 2 of Nature of the Beast was better than side 2 of Power Play. However, side 1 was so awfully good. It was like I talked earlier about how I ranked these songs from 1 to 5, and it was like 1 5, another 5, another 5. The whole first side is outstanding to me. And okay, so just to give you an example, why did I rank it ahead of Nature of the Beast? Well, to me, What If We Fall in Love, I found was a better ballad than Just Between You and Me. But they didn't go with that as the lead single. They went with Enough Is Enough. They decided to go with more of a rocker because they're a rocking band. And it'll, as Tim alluded to, it only made it up to number 50. The album made it up to number 37, and then it just died. And I don't know what happened. I've actually looked around the internet to try and figure out what might have happened. One of the things that was thrown out there was the If You See K song apparently did not go over well during the Reagan era. It was a conservative era. Miles Goodwin does make reference to the fact that there were certain places in the United States that were boycotting the band, and that might have affected the publicity of the album or the band or something of that nature. I'm not sure, but I thought this would be the one that would take them to that next level, the way that like High and Fidelity took REO Speedwagon to the next level after You Can't Tune a Piano but You Can Tune a Fish. So didn't quite happen. They started dropping after this. So I don't know why. I liked it better than Nature of the Beast, but hey, the public spoke and didn't sell as many copies as Tim said. So
yeah,
too bad.
I agree. Well,
never recaught the momentum after that.
No.
Yeah. Well,
It's they worked so hard to get to that point, and it didn't last very long.
Yeah.
Well, I absolutely love Power Play, but it's ranked a lot higher in my. How could it be any higher? I'm going to have to go with First Glance as my number 4. I mean, Roller, for God's sakes. What can I say about Roller? Hot on the Wheels of Love. What can I say about that track? The whole damn record is great. Get Ready for Love. Classic. This is where everything really came together. Silver Dollar. I'm Alive. I love this whole record. Once I got Brian Greenway in, that was what solidified this band as far as I'm concerned. I can't explain it. These bands work in mysterious ways, but all I can say is once Brian was in the band, baby, let it rip. So I'm going to go with First Glance as my number 4. I wish I could rate it higher, but there are still albums I like better. All right, Tim. Dazzle us.
For my number 3, I got this really weird Korean version.
Of course.
We want you to be able to say it in Korean.
Whoa, that's your number 3?
That's my number 3, yeah.
Goodness gracious.
I mean, number 3, we're here at number 3. That's pretty high. And I know this is their, can I say it in Korean? The answer is no. Can you make out any of that?
No, I was kidding.
I have an Animal Grace cassette like this too, and it's just a really weird design. It's on EMI, so it's official. No, this, I mean, it's deserving of its status as their highest charting album. I think Just Between You and Me is one of the greatest rock ballads ever written, and I like the fact that it's just solid guitar, solid electric guitar.
Yeah.
There's just something very pure about it. Sign of the Gypsy Queen is one of my all-time favorite songs. I cannot get tired of it. I love All Over Town. Future Tense is a great heavy one. So is Crash and Burn. I mean, Crash and Burn is
heavy
for this band. The only things that drag this album down for me are the 2 side closers. Caught in the Crossfire is a fun song, but it's so dated with the laser sound effects And I've never been a big fan of One More Time, but other than that, I don't think. I mean, I like Wanna Rock is just a simple little boogie rocker, but I love it. I love the fact that there's a tapping solo in it, and
Oh, it's brilliant.
it's good. So yeah, my number. I mean, we're in albums that are like by degrees in where they slot. But
Right.
that's my number 3 is Nature of the Beast.
I can live with that. I'm all right with that.
Wow.
Well,
Here again, we're in, for me, it's in that zone of throwing them up in the air and see what
juggling
lands.
and see where they end up.
Animal
Number
Grace.
3.
Animal Grace for me.
Wow.
That's my boy. That's
Again,
my boy.
Again, I think of, if I'm thinking of me in 1984,
Mhm.
and I would have eaten this up as back then. This would have been something I would have really dug. I really love This Could Be the Right One. I love
Yes.
Sons of the Pioneers. I enjoy Give Me That Thing Called Love. Rock Tonight, Hard Rock Kid. I think
Hard
it was
Rock
just
Kid.
that
Yes.
whole album to me. This was a good sweet spot for me, and I just really enjoy. This was one I would have enjoyed listening to in 1984, and I certainly enjoy listening to it in 2022, 2023. So that's what I'm going with. Animal Grace.
Wow, I love that, John Clauser. Even though I didn't rate it as high, but I'm totally with you on it. I am totally down for that. Wow, Dave, what you got?
Grant
What are we-
Arthur, you're about to feel like a New York Jets fan on NFL draft day, because my
Okay.
number 3 is
I can hardly
Forever
wait.
for Now. It's Forever for Now. I was actually even a little surprised that this was ranked as high as it was, but then when I really thought about it, I remember when I brought this album home.
Oh,
The
my
reason I
God.
bought this album was because I heard I'd Rather Be Strong on Shom FM in Montreal, and I said, hey, I got to have that album. And I remember putting on the album saying, hey, I really like that opener, Forever for Now. And then I heard like some of the ballads, Child's Garden, Lovin' You. And I thought, wow, those are really good ballads. And then I remember hearing Hollywood thinking, oh, wow, that's a funny, cool song. And then I remember hearing like, just anyway, go on and on and on. But the bottom line is I just really like every song on the album. And what I really have always really liked about this album is the variety of it. It's just you can't pigeonhole it.
Mhm.
It's like he's done all kinds of different songs on. He's doing calypso, he's doing some rock, he's doing some ballads.
Yeah.
Doing a little bit of everything. Mama Lay, another great song on this album. So I've just always really enjoyed it. It's a great album or CD to listen to when I don't really quite know what I'm in the mood to listen to, because I get a little bit of everything here. I really do like this one. I was a little surprised it ranked as high as it did when I used my little ranking system, but then I thought about it and said, hey, you know what? I really do like all the songs in this album. And I will tell you this. I once asked Brian Greenway, what was your favorite non-Brian Greenway April Wine album? And he said Forever for Now. So Grant Arthur, might not agree with me, but Brian Greenway.
Wow. That's
Well, I can't go against Brian Greenway, so
Nope.
I can, if I dug up on my Facebook, I can prove it to you.
That's awesome.
hey, I believe
thought
it.
for sure he'd say Stand Back, just because, but wow, that's cool.
Holy crap. Hey, I love it. You can rate Forever for Now that high. I applaud you. All right, kids, my number 3 is Power Play. I love this record. I've always loved this record. I have nothing bad to say about this record. Is it Nature of the Beast? Is it? No, but it's a little bit different, a little bit more accessible. But the songwriting's there, the playing's there, guitar solos are there. Everything you want is here in an April Wine album. I love it. In fact, rating my top 3 is very difficult to rate them. And in fact, I didn't really know what my top 3 were going to be until I looked at it again. It might change even before we end this. Anyway, number 3, Power Play, highly recommended. This could be considered a dark horse record. Some people don't care for this record. I think it's absolutely wonderful record. Changed my life as a youth. I will leave it there. All right, Tim, what's your number 2?
So my number 2, and this has, again, a lot to do with when I got into April Wine. And this isn't the album, but it's a 6-song sampler from what would become Attitude. This is a 6-song sampler with
cool.
an advanced cassette from
Nice.
Capital EMI of Canada. The 6 songs are Good from Far, Far from Good, If You Believe in Me, That's Love, Here's Looking at You, Kid, Love Your Stuff, and Voice in My Heart. So it's got the same songs on both sides. Yeah, I thought this was a really great comeback for them. I love the fact that they came back with such a hard rocking album. You know, some of these bands, you know, they might get, you know, like Latter-day Foreigners. There's not a lot of, the Latter-day Foreigner albums don't sound anything like the first 3, you know? So there might be that tendency to mellow out, get a little bit more acoustic, you know. They didn't do that. They came back, guns a-blazing, 3-guitar lineup once again, slightly different lineup, but a perfectly credible lineup. I think Miles did any of the albums he produced himself sound fine, you know. And I do think, like John said, that there are a lot of ballads on here, but there's no 2 ballads in a row. I think it's very well sequenced. And I've just always really liked this album. I gave it a 9 when I reviewed it. It's always been way up there for me, and it's the spoiler because most of my top ones are those Capitol ones, but this one is the one that knocks it out. So that's my number 2 is Attitude.
Wow, I love it. See, you just never know. This is what's so great about April Wine. Everybody's got their favorites. That's great. It's a great record. I'll leave it there. All right. Wow. I'm just blown away. All right, John, what you got?
All right. Well, here we go. Well, my top 2 are going to be pretty predictable, but if you really stop to think about it, we started off with these albums. Harder, Faster is going to be my number 2.
Yeah.
So here again, I feel like I just really connected with this one. I like to rock. Hey, Say Hello is great. I actually really like 21st Century Schizoid Man because to be honest, I'm not a King Crimson guy. I've never really taken the time to listen to them that much. So I've never actually heard their version, you know, the original version. But I think, you know, for a band that comes across as just basically a good hard rock blues band to pull off something that's really proggy like that, I think that's saying something. You know, I think they do a wonderful job with it. So, yeah, I just really connected with this album, and it just one I played the most, and I think it's the one I've gone to probably the most, aside from the number 1 here. So
I was going to say when I was a kid, and I heard 21st Century, I had no idea it was a King Crimson song. My gateway drug to that track was April Wine, and when I was a kid, we thought that this track was just out of this world. You know, we're talking virtuoso. We're talking on the level of like Rush, even though these guys weren't, you know, Rush, but my God, the playing on that, you know, and I saw them live on this tour and the triple guitar lineup.
Yeah, they knock it out of the park. I mean, they
played
do
it live too. And they
pull it off well live. Yeah.
This band was on fire, and the fact that they could pull it off, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, that's a great choice. I'm with you. Great record. All right, Dave.
Number 2 for me is First Glance. And again, I have to sort of find like what was the difference between that one and maybe, you know, the other, let's say top 4. And it has the other 2 songs in my April Wine Hall of Fame, and those are Roller and Coming Right Down on Top of Me.
Yeah.
So those are outstanding songs. I made reference in another show. I still don't know how Roller isn't like a classic rock song that's just played constantly on rock radio, like all across this country. But like I said, I got to go back to visit Canada in order to hear that one. So,
well, they used to play that all the time here in the States.
No, they played it when it came out. I know that, especially I know here in the Midwest, apparently they played it, but they don't, at least not here out in Cleveland. They don't play it anymore.
Right.
I have heard from various people, no, they play it in this market or that market, but it's just not a standard. Like I hear it just, now it's used in a lot of movies. It's been in a lot of movies. It's been in a couple of David Spade movies like Joe Dirt. But It doesn't get the respect it deserves because it's like it's so slickly produced. The guitar playing is like perfect. It just sounds outstanding to me. And then coming right down on top of me is just it's a classic ballad. Rock and Roll's a Vicious Game, another great song, still played a lot in Canada. And then you go down to some of the deeper tracks. Get Ready for Love, Out on the Wheels of Love, Silver Dollar. That's a fantastic song. And then the Greenway
fantastic.
songs.
Yeah.
Brian Greenway sings 2 songs on that one, and I like both of those right down to it. And I'm Alive. So again, it gets really hard to rank these albums 1 to 8, but I think ranking this one number 2 is more than fair.
All right, super. I can't argue with that. Any of these in this classic lineup period, you cannot argue with. All right, so my number 2, these two could flip flop, but today my number 2 is Nature of the Beast, which I think is a perfect record. Think about it. All Over Town segues right into Telling Me Lies. Those songs almost go together, like that Journey, City of Angels, and all that. Oh, I love it. And then think about this. All Over Town, Telling Me Lies, on to Sign of the Gypsy Queen. Then Just Between You and Me, and then Wanna Rock. Holy mackerel, this side one cooks. And then Caught in the Crossfire, I like. Future Tense, Big City Girls. I love this record. I love this record. I know when they recorded it, it wasn't an easy record to record because didn't they record this at the Manor? They were over in London.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
You can't tell it though. I love this record. This is probably for a lot of people, this may be the best record, but I don't know. I love it. I love it. My number 2. All right, let's go to number 1, Tim Durling.
Well, for a lot of people, I mean, Nature of the Beast would be the only April Wine album they have. Matter of math, I think people might have figured it out by now. My favorite is Harder Faster. This is a UK cassette. I just think this is a perfect album. But a funny story about Schizoid Band. The first time I ever heard it, like I said, I got into them when Attitude came out. And then I borrowed Attitude from a buddy of mine, and I also borrowed the All the Rockers compilation CD, which was a really good 1-2 punch, right? It was a really good introduction. Yeah, it was really
highly recommend this. Highly recommend this.
Yeah. But it had 21st Century Schizoid Band on it. Like I knew the name King Crimson. I didn't know anything about them. I still really don't, but I didn't know 21st Century Schizoid Man was a cover. All I knew was like, this is a weird song.
Mm-hmm.
Who's singing this? And why is it so long? And I didn't like it. It wasn't one I liked until later that year when I saw them live and they did Schizoid Man, and it was perfect. Like just stop on a dime.
Brilliant.
The stops and starts that aren't any don't seem to be in any discernible time signature in a bar.
Yeah,
like not you can hear a pin drop and so tight. And this is Jim Clench back in the band. He's not even the guy that originally played on it. And I had this vision in my head of them talking about songs. And it was like, oh, you're not going to make me learn that, are you? But I've grown to really like that song. I thought Say Hello was kind of a weird song when I first heard it. I wasn't familiar with it, but I grew to really like it. I Like to Rock was one that I'd seen the video on Much Music a few times, and I always liked the song. And I always liked watching the video because I'm such a big Rush fan that it was in the studio in Morin Heights. So the I Like to Rock video, they're in that studio with the big window, you can see outside, and it's in the summertime. Whereas if you watch like Tom Sawyer or Limelight, it's the same studio, but it's the wintertime. That's just something I noticed. But Before the Dawn is just Before the Dawn, I would have said was my favorite of the Brian sung songs, but Holiday might have supplanted it. I don't know. They're both really good. I don't think there's a weak track on here. I like every single one of them. So yeah, this was kind of a no-brainer that this would be my number 1.
Oh, love it. All right, John.
Well, yeah,
I'm just gonna guess.
I think y'all can figure it out. And I think really, I think this could go with Harder, Faster, and flip flop all the time. Yeah, it's going to be Nature of the Beast for me. Yeah. But here again, I think again, I think they could flip flop with Harder Faster, and you have just these great perfect albums. I just, you have the first Sigh where it just smokes. Yeah, you had that weird laser sounding Caught in the Crossfire, but again, back in the day, I think I would have eaten it up. I would have loved it. I would have enjoyed it because the rest of the album was just a good solid album for me, and I would definitely have liked my junior high me would have loved this. So so yeah, I'm sticking with that. Nature of the Beast this week. Next week it could be Harder Faster.
Right.
2 weeks later it could be the first one.
All right, Dave. Thank you, John. Dave, what you got?
Yeah, and I thought this when we began this series, and I still stick with it. Stand Back is my favorite. And I've always been pretty consistent about that. I've always felt this one was my favorite one. By the way, it's also Miles' favorite one. It was the first big smash hit they had, at least in north of the border. Now, the one thing that's funny about this one is that I agree with you guys. There's no weak songs on Harder Faster. There's no weak songs on First Glance. This one does have a weak song in Slowpoke, but the rest of the album is just so good. I've got forgiveness for that one song, and also it is kind of funny. But there's so many great songs on this, and there's classics that are still played today. Certainly, Ooh What a Night played all the time on Canadian radio still. Tonight is a Wonderful Time to Fall in Love is still played all the time. Come Here the Band, kind of a forgotten one, but that's just another great song. And I still remember to this day when I saw that when the band had their reunion tour back in 1992, and I got to see them play "Victim for Your Love." That was that made the night for me because I never thought I would get to see that song played live. So that was outstanding. It was the best-selling album up to that point by a Canadian band in Canada, and I can see why. It's great.
So that's actually Miles' favorite.
That one is still Miles' favorite. I've seen him say that in multiple interviews.
Huh, cool. Well, it's not my favorite, but I'm going to go with Harder Faster, which I think's their masterpiece. Like I said, I could flip-flop on this. I could choose Nature of the Beast in this, but this, I like to rock, Say Hello Before the Dawn, Tonight, Ladies Man, Babes in Arms. You got 21st Century Schizoid Man. It's a perfect record. This is my gateway record. This is the album that I saw them when I was a kid. And I think I saw them live first before I even had this. And as a child, I just thought, holy crap. And by the way, this is the original Capitol CD. The later Capitol CDs have a red label. This is mid-'80s. It went out of print, and then they reissued it like in 91. But this got different inserts and all that.
Grant was kind enough to send me one of those, and I had the one with the red CD, and I gave it a good home. So thank you.
So this is the first. This is the first.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. See how I am. I'm a giver, kids. I'm a giver. Anyway, that's my number one. And look at us. Our number one. Well, Tim Durling and I line up. We're diagonal. Yeah. 2 for Harder Faster, 1 for Nature, and 1 for Stand Back. And gentlemen, we've wrapped up the April Wine series. It's been a year of April Wine.
Yes, it has.
If April Wine puts out another record, you may see us again. But at this point, we're calling it a day. So, want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming on. Anybody had anything to add before we wrap it up? We've been talking for a while.
It's been a pleasure. This has been a really great reintroduction to this band for me.
Yeah, and same here. And there's stuff I would never have heard if we hadn't have done this.
And an introduction, really, for me, since I only knew the one song, and I got to go through 16 albums of just a lot of really great stuff. So for me, this was a joy to have gone through and hear from you guys. So this was great for me.
Yeah, I appreciate, John, you jumping on this series just for the fact that you really were kind of green to the band. You only knew what you knew, and you took a chance and did the series with us. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I think we all benefited from it. I think we've all learned a lot. Because, hey, who knows we would have revisited these? Who knows if we would have revisited these albums on our own? Pretty slim. I would have just stuck with that classic period and called it a day, probably. But
Yeah, I would have
as it
stuck with
is,
my 8 albums and I was good.
yeah. But as we've learned, there's way more to it than what you're used to. So, all right. Let's wrap it up. All right. Good night, gentlemen. I want to thank Dave, Tim, and John Clauser for doing this series with me. Ryan Gavalier was part of this once.
Nick Esquire, I think, was in there.
Nick
Yeah,
Esquire.
Nick-
Oh,
Nick was on here. Yeah.
Nick was supposed. Okay. I don't want to disregard Nick, but I invited Nick, but he is out of town and he couldn't make it. But
I
he
do
would have been
remember
here.
doing an episode where he had a bunch of the April Wine vinyl because I remember asking him what
Yeah,
version
the London.
Whole World's
yeah.
Going Crazy that he had. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks everybody for doing it. Ryan, Nick, Dave, Tim, John, everybody who's followed us on this journey. And this has been a journey. All right. Please like, subscribe. You know the whole routine. Plenty more content coming up. We'll see you here. See you on the Contrarians. Good night, everybody. And thanks, gentlemen, for wrapping some April wine.
Grant's Rock Warehouse. 'Cause everything else sucks.